Hi ladies and gents, Pond here with another video for Rise of Empires, Ice and Fire. Thank you so much for your previous likes, comments and subscriptions to the channel. If you haven't subscribed already, why not click on that button and ring the bell so you can get notifications whenever I'm dropping content on the channel. And now onto the topic of this video, and it's been a couple of weeks, maybe 3 weeks since Arthur has dropped into the game. And this is my full Essex hero guide to King Arthur, so let's get straight into it. He is a melee hero. So that means he's suitable for front or middle rows as it says in the description. But I can tell you now, King Arthur is definitely only going to be on the front row. And that's due to the way that his skill set is kind of arranged and how he's going to benefit from being on that front row only. He is a footman hero as well, so not a general hero, just working with footmen. And let's check out his skills. Skill 1 is the 23,100 bonus marching capacity as usual. Skill 2, status skill, so it activates pre-battle and is always in effect, so it's a very consistent skill. And this is the damage the hero takes is minus 80% at the start of the battle, so that is a big buff. What you want, that makes him tanky, so less troops are going to die in his squad on that front row. But each time the hero takes damage, the damage mitigation effect will be reduced by 8%. So bearing in mind that you do take multiple elements of damage as a front row squad, usually 3 or 4 per round, potentially this is going to be reduced to 0 by around the third turn of the battle. But while the hero is taking damage, resistance increases by 20%. And damage dealt is increased by 10%, and this is stackable 16 layers. That is absolutely huge. That's basically double what the previous kind of stackable abilities were. So, and this is going to be effective until the end of the battle as well. So if he takes damage 16 times, you're going to then end up with an increase in resistance of 320% and an extra 160% of damage. That is absolutely huge. The next nearest hero in terms of a single skill that has an effect on damage is Immortal's 8th skill, which gives an extra 80% damage. So this can give, now even though that's effective all the time, again, this you could probably expect this to be maxed by the end of turn 4, based on the fact that you would have taken 12 lots of basic attacks on the front row by then, and realistically you probably have taken 4 skill attacks as well, or if this is any amount of damage. So that can stack very quickly in the battle, and that is could be a game changer in terms of the extra damage, because that is a key metric in terms of how battles are won and lost. If we look at skills 3 and 4, as usual for an Essex hero, it's giving an extra 50% resistance and 50% might for the troops. And then skill 5, it's a passive skill, so passive skills of course activate after your troops' basic attack. And Arthur wields the Sacred Sword and has a 50% chance, and not bad, this is most likely going to activate 3 to 5 times in a battle, to deal 700% damage. That is a very large amount, one of the highest single amounts of damage in the game from one single skill. But it's only to one random enemy squad. But then it does have in brackets an S. So within the valid range, so the effective range is 3. So again, this is probably why another reason why you do have to put Arthur on that front row. So he can reach any of your opponent's 3 squads with this skill. And then it also has an additional ability of making the combat skill damage dealt by the opponent's squad to be minus 25% for 2 rounds. And again, it's got brackets S because it can stack. So for instance, if you activate this and it hits the front row on the 6th turn, then it will have minus 25%. That squad will then deal minus 25% combat skill damage on that turn. And then if you then hit it again on the 7th, the next turn, then that would then increase this effect to minus 50%. So that's quite a big debuff as well. Skill 6 is the Awaken skill as usual, but he gives an extra 15% damage, which is unusual for a front row hero. Usually you'd expect extra HP, but of course he's giving all of this extra resistance. So he's got a fairly large amount of tankiness already in effect. And then for his 7th skill, you're seeing even more resistance given to the whole squad here, an extra 40% resistance. So he really is like a balanced hero in terms of his defensive abilities and his offense. And then for his 8th skill, Blessing of the King, it's a status skill again. Arthur receives blessings with his healing effect boosted by 12% permanently. Now this is not that he heals, but actually is it's the healing effects of other heroes in the Legion. So say if he's paired with, a Scander, a healer, a bleeding steed from Footman Heroes, for instance, or maybe if you're pairing him with in a mixed combo with like a Hellfire, for instance, potentially, then he's going to benefit from additional healing from their abilities. And when an enemy squad casts a combat skill, the effect will be boosted by 1.5% more. So that's going to, and this is stackable up to 12 layers. So that's another 18% on top of this 12%. So by the end of the battle, he can be gaining an additional 30% of healing from fellow heroes' healing skills. So that is, again, making him more tanky as the battle goes on. Also, starting from round 5, the Sword in the Stone will be cast on the middle or back row enemy squad for one time. So that is that 5th skill doing 700% damage. If it casts on rounds 5, 6, 7 or 8, then it will also then cast again for a second time and guarantees hitting the middle or back row. So you can be doing huge amounts of damage. Bearing in mind you're doing 700% damage each time with this ability, plus you're getting the extra damage from the stackable element of skill 2. So towards the end of the battle you can be doing huge amounts of damage potentially with this Sword in the Stone ability. So Arthur, again, he's a real game changer in terms of also, obviously it's a change in tack from the devs. They've gone with these royal recruitment tickets. He has his own banner, as we've seen again over the last few days. So let's have a look at him in a battle video in action. So I'm just going to switch over to that and we'll be in the battle video in just a second. So shout out to Daniel in State 55 for giving me a hand with making this battle video. We can see that we're just in the pre-round, round 0, as you kind of call it, stage of the battle where all the status skills are activating. So that's Wheel of Fortune there. So that's that skill 2 activating. Now, this is one of the stronger combinations that you can put Arthur with. As you can see, I've put him with Steed and Scander with a full Footman Legion. So you're going to get a lot of healing going on here, and obviously Bleeding Steed gives healing potentially after each element of damage. So far you're seeing the standard amount of healing from Steed, and then as you see Steed and both Scander's healing effects increasing. Oh, and we've already seen there, sorry, that was his Sword in the Stone, and you saw that that did 21,000 kills already on turn 2 to Avalanche's back row. Now, with all this healing going on, you can see that he's already holding quite a high troop count on, despite being on the front row. And as the battle goes on, the basic attacks and the damage that he's doing is going to increase, and also you're going to see that obviously the healing will increase as well. So it really makes him a strong hero towards the end of the battle, potentially after turn 5 where you're getting that extra, potentially you're getting that second turn of the Sword in the Stone 5th skill. So let's just speed it up a little bit through the turns. And obviously this is up against a full Cav Legion, by the way, obviously one of the strongest. There's Sword in the Stone again attacking that front row, 18,000 kills with that ability. Now you may notice that nearly every turn his skill 8 Blessing of the King is popping up. There we go again, turn 5, 2 Blessings of the King. Now that is because it's activated every time that your opponent does a combat skill. So that is just showing that the stackable amount of increased healing for that skill. So you quite often do see Arthur doing 16, 18, 20 skills in a battle, but over half of those skills can just be this stackable ability from his 8th skill. Of course, when you do combine him with Bleeding Steed and Scander, you're getting a lot of healing and not necessarily so much damage from your other 2 heroes in the squad. But it just makes this is quite a good defensive Legion. It makes it really hard to break down. So there you can see that Arthur's Legion, Arthur's squad is obtaining 1,755 heals, and this is now going to be the extra attack. So there we go. So he did an attack on the front row, dealing nearly 23,000 damage. And then because it was after turn 5, we got an additional attack, which this time went to the back row, dealing nearly another, 16,000 damage. This is footmen attacking cavalry, remember, as well. So he's really doing significant amounts of damage. Extra heal there as well. It's now up to 1,777. That's from Bleeding Steed's healing. And you can see now for a front row squad, still very high troop count. And there we go. These absolute killer attacks again. 23,000 kills from a footman attack on cavalry. So we've never seen this really before in the game. And you can see there now on turn 7, he's taken more damage. So Bleeding Steed's healing is now doing 1,798 heals. So just still again that stackable healing from the 8th skill. And yet again on turn 8 we're getting another Sword in the Stone double attack, 19,000 kills and then another 16,000 kills. Yeah, and even his basic attack there was doing 6,800 kills as well, because of this all this extra damage that he's doing from that skill too. One last Blessing of the King as well. That's again just the opponent's combat skill activating. And that's the end of the battle. Front row, nearly 94,000 heals. 94,000 finishing troop count. 83,000 heals through the battle. He did 104,000 skill kills. Bearing in mind that is footmen against cavalry. That's very, very good. Now, let's talk about actual combinations for King Arthur. So in terms of mixed, we're seeing him used with Bleeding Steed and Warhammer. He's also being used with again Bleeding Steed and Jade Eagle. Now part of the reason he's paired with those heroes is that actually Warhammer and Jade Eagle can have a neutralizing effect on King Arthur. So because obviously he does rely on this increased healing, Warhammer obviously completely shuts down the healing of an opponent by the end of the battle. And also you'll probably know, for those of you, that Jade Eagle on his 5th skill also stops footman healing. So that's one of the reasons that those kind of mixed legions have worked. But he will also kind of work with, for instance, your standard Hellfire Avalanche combo mixed legion if you're using them with cavalry. And then if we look at in terms of footmen, so he's working really well with combinations, for instance, as you saw in the video, with Bleeding Steed and Skander. He'll work with Healer as well, along with Bleeding Steed, or you can just change Steed out and put Healer and Skander. He's even working, for instance, with basically he nearly always gets paired with Bleeding Steed, and also even Cicero works, because Cicero's 5th skill reduces the resistance of the opponent by 200%, and if you remember, King Arthur's 2nd skill is also dependent on the level of resistance as well, something similar that we've seen from Farah and from Arslan's skills. You could also use him potentially with Skander and Fortune Teller, just the way that Fortune Teller's skills focus on that marked squad. But personally, for me, I'm not sure how good that is. I haven't seen lots of people running that combination. So he can work with a lot of different a lot of footman heroes anyway, but mainly, of course, you're going to be putting him with these healing heroes. How can he be stopped? Well, yeah, it's pretty simple. As I already said, one of his key elements is healing. So basically, he does struggle against combinations that have Warhammer in them, and potentially Jade Eagle. So those are kind of like the key ones. Also potentially, say, obviously, some of his abilities rely on combinations where your opponent is actually doing combat skills. So if he's up against opponents that aren't casting combat skills, obviously then that's going to be another way that you can kind of neutralize his abilities by the specific combinations you're putting together. So any heroes that don't really have a lot of combat skills, are potentially going to work better against Arthur as well. So there you go, guys. That is kind of everything regarding King Arthur. What do I rate him? Well, if you just look at him as a footman hero, I think you've got to rate him 5 stars. I mean, he's in nearly all of the top footman hero combinations right now. If you put him in that mixed legion with Bleeding Steed and Warhammer, he's going to be reasonably consistent against a lot of combinations, because obviously if you are pairing him with Warhammer, that will help neutralize him. That will help neutralize your opponent if they've got Warhammer in their legion as well. And then it also means that if you're pairing him in that mixed legion, you can potentially still have Aslan, Scala and Healer freed up to have like a really strong footman legion as well. So yeah, definitely a 5-star for a footman hero, probably even 4.5, 5-star for mixed as well, just because that combination is going to be really consistent for you. So yeah, that's kind of everything I wanted to cover on Arthur. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, then please do click on that like, and of course, if you could share this video and my channel in your Alliance chat, Orange chat, and through Line, WhatsApp, Viber, Discord, whatever you use to communicate with your fellow players in the game, that'd be very much appreciated. Of course, I'm always interested to hear your thoughts. What are you guys in the community thinking about Arthur? Have you been up against him in the last few weeks towards the end of the season? How's he been doing for you if you did manage to recruit him, spend the money and get those tickets to recruit him? Or how are you feeling about it as a player who has had to face him and haven't been able to get copies of him? Put your comments in the comment section down below. I'll be eager to hear your thoughts. That's it for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.